flags in pilot jobs. And the last one might be controversial. Hey guys, my name is Katie. I'm a professional pilot and I'm here to talk to you today about red flags in pilot jobs. Now, before we get into it, let's just say that when you first start as a professional pilot, that first couple jobs that you have, first maybe 2 to 4 years, is going to be a lot of work. The hours are going to be tough and you're not going to get paid a whole lot. So we're not necessarily talking about that. We're talking more about long-term jobs where you're trying to find your forever home and you're interviewing and trying to figure out if this company is it or not. So the first one is going to be high turnover rate. Now this applies in a lot of different industries as well, but we know that if people are just bleeding out of this industry or this company, that it is not a good place to work, right? The proof is in the pudding and people just cannot hang on there. It's kind of an unspoken rule in aviation that you try to work somewhere for about a year. Your employer pays for your training, and it's kind of the courtesy in aviation so that you pay them back through your labor for the money they put into your flight training. But if people are leaving right at 12 months or they're leaving even before that, it just means that they are counting down the days and they can barely hang on, whether it's the schedule, the safety culture, whatever it may be. So high turnover is a red flag in pilot jobs. The second red flag in pilot jobs is bad maintenance. And I have heard it said in aviation that with maintenance, you can judge a book by its cover, and I tend to agree with that. The hangar that you go into to look at the maintenance of the aircraft, the outside of the airplane, is there oil or fluids all over the place? Does it look like it's from the 1920s and it's a piece of crap? Like, maybe not the plane that you want to be flying over the mountains at night as PIC. Because remember, once you pre-flight and you take control of that aircraft, you said, hey, looks good to me, maintenance is good to go, and I accept it, and then you're reliable. So you really want good maintenance. You also, this plays into a whole safety culture, right? So you want to be able to report maintenance to the company, to the maintainer, and just have it be fixed. Nobody fights you on it, and it's not a big deal, and you want the plane to be safe and operational. So if the hangar's a mess, if it looks crappy, it probably is. The third red flag is going to be low pay. Now, again, I'm not necessarily talking about just low overall. You can't really compare apples to oranges. So if we're comparing like an airline captain to a CFI, obviously that doesn't just mean that the CFI job is a red flag. What I'm talking about is if you're flying, let's say, a citation, and the industry standard, hourly or annual salary or day rate for a citation is X, and the company is paying X minus 40, then that company is not going to necessarily be a good place to work. I've seen this at certain companies with Pilatus pilots where they'll pay them about $30,000 a year less than what the industry standard is, and generally they just kind of work their pilots, and it's kind of a step along the way in their career and not their forever home. So if they're not compensating their employees well, it's just not a place they can stay. And those pilots are not valued, right? And they just don't have good quality of life. So pay is important. Red flag number 4 is overscheduled pilots. Now, whenever you get an aviation job, you really need to talk about scheduling. In the airlines, it's pretty set, right? You get your bid your schedule, you don't have a ton of control over it, but there can be a variation in vacation days, PTO, things of that nature. Also look into the medical leave policies and stuff like that, because you never know what's going to happen in the next 30 years of your life that you may need some short-term disability or whatever the case may be. But if the company that you're looking at has an insane schedule where you're supposed to be available 25 days a month or something like that, that's going to be a red flag. And a lot of those companies will kind of do this used car salesman thing where they're like, oh, well, we don't actually fly you those days. That does not matter. As a pilot, if you're on reserve, that is a work day. So keep that in mind, that's industry standard, but if they're working you constantly, or that you've heard that they call the pilots on their days off and say, oh, we'll pay you a day rate, that's not necessarily a good thing. That means that they can't hold on to employees, or they're kind of hurting for money, or all these different things could be going on there. But overall, you have to have a work-life balance. And if this is your forever home, you're going to need some time off on a regular basis. Again, this plays into a safety culture because pilots don't need to be overworked. We need time off. We need to rest. We need to lower the fatigue and the stress levels and recover. Pilot job red flag number 5 is they will not put anything in writing. So obviously you're going to get an offer letter, but let's say in your interview you said, hey, I want to get this type rating or this school, or I need X number of days off, or whatever it may be. Whatever you negotiated, that should be in writing. Again, this is kind of something, for every industry this applies, but especially with aviation jobs, a lot of them will say, we're going to put you in XYZ airplane for 12 months, and then we're going to upgrade you to the jet, or we're going to upgrade you to this bigger jet, or we're going to upgrade you to captain. Put that in writing. If it's not in writing, it's not going to happen. Or they might not have it happen, right? Like maybe you trust them, you know them, it's your best friend, it's your dad that runs the company, whatever. However, overall, you want it in writing or it is not real. Red flag number 6 is low training pay or no training pay. Now, outside the airlines as well, in Part 135 and Part 91, it is very common for the company to just start you on your normal salaried amount from day one, even if you're in training, even if you're sitting at home or whatever the case may be. In the airlines, there's obviously a different rate for training pay, so if you know the pay scales, you know what it is, it's a big airline, you know what to expect, and they're gonna pay you pretty low in training, but you got the idea of what it's gonna be in the long run, maybe you're willing to accept that. But again, Part 135, Part 91, not normal. You should be paid salary from day one, even if training is delayed or whatever the case may be. So also keep in mind with airlines, you know, if they say, hey, we're gonna put you on reserve pay or your guaranteed minimum or whatever, and we're gonna get you into class in the future, how far in the future? You know, are you still allowed to work during the time at your previous employer? Are you going to have to quit your other job and then you're just kind of having to hang out and sit on the guaranteed minimum for 6 months or whatever it is with the way that airline training is right now? So all things to think about. And red flag number 7, and again, this one is controversial because there's a couple ways to look at this, is if they have a huge sign-on bonus. So let me explain what I mean by that. Think about a really, really good aviation company. Maybe it's like one of the highest grossing airlines in the world. Let's talk like Delta Airlines. Is Delta Airlines offering their first officers a $100,000 signing bonus? Absolutely not. And why is that? Because people want to work for Delta Airlines. They know it's a quality airline. They know that they pay their employees well. They know they have a good quality of life and good benefits. They know they have a good safety culture. And they're willing to just get in the door because it's such a quality job. They just want to be there. Think about another airline, on the other hand, that's maybe offering this massive bonus. Well, why do they have to do that? Because they can't hold on to employees, right? For whatever reason, whether those employees are trying to upgrade to a different airline or something else. Now, sometimes people will offer bonuses, right? Like, you know, you go to maybe a medevac company and they're gonna offer you a bonus. Again, think about why they have to do that. That just means that overall, most pilots do not prefer to work there. That doesn't mean it's not a great place to work. You know, you may love being a medevac pilot and never want to go to an airline. Everybody has their different pros and cons and what's important to them. But if they're consistently hiring, they have high turnover, they have like all these other 6 red flags, and then they're offering this big bonus, you got to think about why they have to do that, right? So those are my 7 aviation pilot job red flags. I would love to hear your stories in the comments. What did I miss? Is there other ones that we should be aware of? It's really important for you as a pilot to be thinking about your liability and the safety of whatever company you work for. So I hope these help you guys out.